Welcome to Failure Isn't Fatal, a Fall and Rise podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Loudenberg, and today I have with me Lauren. Hi, Lauren.
Hi, Matt.
Hi. So Lauren's here to talk to us today about her husband, and more specifically, her husband's suicide. So, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, Lauren?
My name is Lauren Jacobson. Currently 36 years old, widowed at 34. My husband passed away September 14th of 2020. Mom of two beautiful stepdaughters. I love them very much. Fur mama as well. So gotta add the other babies in.
Yeah, I understand that one. I'm no kids yet, but I'm a fur dad.
So. Yes, gotta add. You can't forget them; they'll get mad.
Of course. Well, thanks for joining us, Lauren. I appreciate you being here talking about this. I know that this is a difficult subject, but as we talked about before, it's something that needs to be talked about.
I think it does. I really think that there needs to be a message out there about suicide awareness, period, but especially with men in general.
I agree. We're actually going to be running a promotion. We're doing a year of donation, and each quarter we're donating to a different organization. So I believe in third quarter, which will be later this year, about August, September, we're going to be donating a portion of all to an organization called To Write Love on Her Arms. I don't know if you're familiar with that organization, but it's a suicide awareness organization.
Okay.
So we'll be donating to them later this year. Currently, we're donating to a group called Mentor that mentors at-risk children. So, so later on this year, we'll donate to the suicide awareness. But I think it's a very important subject. Very, very important.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that it is too. For anybody, really.
Yeah, definitely. So why don't you walk us through the situation? Tell us about what happened. Let's start from the beginning.
So I guess in reality, to start from the beginning, so my husband, Eric, he was National Guard, 17 years.
That's a long service.
Yeah. And he was getting ready to actually resign because there was no way I was going to let him drop out now with 3 years left to retire.
Yeah. So close.
So he was 17 years National Guard. I know he did 2 deployments to Iraq for OIF. I'm not entirely sure of the years that he deployed.
What is OIF?
OIF is Operation Iraqi Freedom.
Got it. Okay.
So it was when all of our soldiers were basically no longer going to Afghanistan. We started our war with Iraq.
Yeah.
So he did 2 deployments for in Iraq, each lasting roughly a year. He was a combat engineer. So basically his job was to go around and do C4s and the deck cords, blow up doors, stuff like that. That was his job. He
Preaching.
very much very much enjoyed blowing things up.
What guy doesn't?
I was literally just going to say that. What guy doesn't like blowing stuff up?
Yeah. That's why we like 4th of July.
Yeah. No, his 4th of July's were not a good thing. But it was due to his first deployment.
Yeah, I could imagine.
I don't know what base he was at. I just know that he told me that they were mortared for months and months on end straight.
Wow. That's intense.
And they weren't just hitting outside of base, they were actually making it into base. So they were constantly taking shelter, running for cover and everything like that. So fireworks really got to him. Anything that, especially again, the mortar ones really, really got to him.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah.
So he had a lot of PTSD?
He had a lot of PTSD, especially from that first deployment. There was a kid. Now, my husband, Eric, at the time, I think his first deployment, he was in his, I want to say, mid to late 20s. And one of the mortars that came into their base camp, when it shattered, the shrapnel that hit a 19-year-old kid who ended up dying from the shrapnel. And he didn't know him personally, but he took it very personal.
Right.
Not only was it one of his soldier brothers, but it was a kid who was basically almost 10 years younger than him. And he was like, it should not have been him. He actually believed it should have been him.
Okay, so he had like survivor's guilt.
He had a little bit of survivor's guilt. He did not like the fact that kids younger than him were dying, and he was being able to make it back home. So that kind of really scarred him. So every year, May 25th actually was the date that it happened. He would take that day aside and he would essentially, I don't want to say celebrate, but just remember.
Yeah, like commemorate.
Commemorate. His name was Daniel Unger. And he would just kind of commemorate his loss, and he would just take aside that day. And I just let him have that day. That was just his thing. So like I said, that first deployment really hit hard for him, with just everything that had happened. And then I'm not quite sure anything about his second deployment. He never really talked about it. I don't think it was as bad. I'm hoping maybe that's why he didn't talk about it as much.
Yeah, I guess you never really know.
Yeah. I just know that the night everything happened, he had only been home about 2 weeks. He took the entire month of August. So we live in San Antonio, Texas.
Right.
But he was still part of the California National Guard. He wasn't able to transfer anything over to Texas.
Oh, really?
So he was missing drills.
Okay, yeah.
So he took the entire month of August, drove out to California to make up all of his drills.
And this was in 2020?
In 2020, yes. Yeah. And so he spent the entire month of August basically out in California, came back, and then 2 weeks later, I should actually mention, is somewhat of an alcoholic. I don't want to say he was the dependent on alcoholic. He could wake up and not have a single sip of alcohol.
Hmm.
It was to help him sleep,
Okay, I get you.
but he could go through an entire bottle of Jameson in one night.
That's kind of a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. It was hard for him to sleep. The PTSD, the depression,
Yeah, I'm
it
sure you had a lot
all.
of nightmares.
I'm not sure. I never experienced anything like
Okay.
that. Personally, he may have,
Hmm.
but nothing that affected me to
Yeah.
where he would, hit me in my sleep or move around too much.
Yeah.
Um,
How long
I
were you
think
guys married for?
we were married for a little over a year. We were married in July 13th of 2019.
Okay. Gotcha.
We were dating since June of 2017.
Okay. Gotcha.
So we were together for about 4 years in total, but married for just a little over a year.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
That's about how long my wife and I have been together.
yeah.
Yeah, we got together in
um,
2017 as well.
yeah. So, and I just kind of instantly became part of the family. The kids loved me. His daughters lived with him full time. So I kind of became insta mom.
Yeah.
But very happy to. I love those kids so
I've seen
much.
pictures. Cute kids.
They are adorable. 15 and 14 now. Oh my gosh, they're growing up so fast.
Time flies.
It does. I'm like, she's literally going to be driving soon. And that scares me that my oldest teenager is going to be out on the road soon. Oh my
Oh
Lord.
boy.
California, watch out.
Yeah, oh yeah. Good thing I moved.
Yeah. But so when he came back from his drills in late August
Right.
of 2020, he was doing really well. He had actually cut back on drinking a lot.
Oh, okay. That's good. They
Yeah,
probably
he
wouldn't let him
was.
drink as much maybe when he was in California then.
No, it actually wasn't that. He had stopped drinking even prior to leaving.
Okay.
Yeah, he kind of like, I don't want to say he quit because like we'd still go out to the
Right.
VFW and have a couple of drinks, but he was definitely not drinking a entire bottle of Jameson anymore.
Definitely something he was working on then.
It was definitely something that he was working on. I was very proud of him for it too. Just because he, like most people who get drunk, do stupid stuff.
Yeah, it happens.
um, and so I didn't really like him drinking as much. So it was nice for the cutback.
I imagine.
Yeah, when he came back, so I should mention that he also has a son, which is one of the reasons we moved out here to Texas. His son, when we moved out here at the time, was 5. He's going to be 7 now.
Okay. And this son doesn't live with you guys? I live with you now? He lives
No,
somewhere else?
he's never lived with us. He has always lived with his mom, with
Okay.
the baby mom.
Yeah.
So, but we moved down here so we could hopefully at least see him more, have more
Right.
custody arrangements. Sadly, we only got to see him one time when we
Wow.
were, yeah. And that was Christmas Eve of 2019.
Okay.
And that was the one and only time we got to see him living out here, which is really sad.
Yeah, definitely.
But, we were going to court to try to obviously get some sort of visitations, child support set up, all that wonderful stuff.
Yeah, I
So that we
imagine
could
that
see
being very
him.
difficult.
I I don't want to go into too much detail because it's just a very complicated story.
Right. Yeah.
So long story short is we need to get a DNA test done to prove
Okay.
that he was the father of the boy.
Yeah.
So Eric went in before he left for California in August to get his DNA swabbed. And then we had another court date, I believe, set up at the end of August to determine what the DNA test results were.
Okay.
She did not get her end of the bargain done.
Okay. She
And
didn't test the son.
yeah, she didn't take him in.
Got it.
So that kind of upset him because it was a court order. She denied it,
Mm-hmm.
and there were no consequences for her.
Oh, the court didn't do anything.
Court
That's
did not do
frustrating.
anything. Yeah, it was very frustrating, and it's happened the entire time he's been fighting for custody.
Mm-hmm.
They always let her get away with everything, and him absolutely nothing. So that
It's not fair at all.
it's not. So that was a big part of his depression as well.
Right. Dealing with all that, I imagine.
Not being able to see his son, talk to him like he should have. So the night of September 13th, he got off work and he went out to the bar. He went drinking. I don't know which bar he went to. I think he went to the VFW.
Okay.
And it was, no big deal. It didn't bother me. I was actually packing to fly out to California because my uncle had just passed away at the beginning of September.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
A lot at once.
So I was getting ready to fly out there to be with family. And then I was actually going to drive back because I was going to be coming home with so much stuff. My uncle was an avid hunter. I was going to come home with like a deer head and all this really cool stuff.
Yeah.
So I was packing for that, waiting for him to come home. And I'm like, okay, it's 11:30. The place he works closed at 10. So he should be home soon. And then midnight hit and he's not home. So I started calling him and no answer. And I'm like, okay. And we're talking, this is, mid-pandemic so I was like, I know he's at a bar. So I figured, I was like, I'm gonna try to hit up the local bars and see if I can find him.
Right.
As I'm still calling him, I must have called, oh Lord, 20 times at least, if not more.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously worried.
Yeah. I mean, I was calling his phone because it was if he was in jail, hospital, ditch.
Right.
Hanging out with friends still, but not answering his phone or text messages was, making me worry.
And this is kind of out of the normal, so not something he did often or did ever.
He every now and then this would happen. After a few phone calls, he would at least pick up his phone and say, hey, I'm so sorry. Oh my gosh, I forgot to text you. This is where I'm at. I'm with these people. I'm like, okay, that's fine. Just get home safe,
Yeah.
Call me if you need me to come get you or whatever.
Okay.
Or let me know if you're staying with somebody.
Yeah.
But this night I just could not get a hold of him. Every single time I called, it would ring and finally go to voicemail. So I decided that I was just going to go to the local bars around here and try to find him.
Okay.
So as I get in my car, I'm still calling him. And on one of these calls, somebody finally picks up the phone and he informs me that his name is Sergeant. So I forget his last name, but Sergeant, he goes, I'm on, at Randolph Air Force Base, which is the Air Force Base literally right by our house. And he goes, their husband gave me permission to answer his phone. We currently have him detained on base for a DUI.
Okay.
And I got mad because I'm like, yay, another DUI.
Yeah. So worry turns into anger.
Worry kind of turned into anger.
Yeah.
And I was literally debating on, should I go pick him up? Because they told me that if I go there, they will release him into my care. I was like, I'm going to go, I'm going to talk to him, but I don't know if I'm going to leave him there or if I'm going to take him home yet.
Right.
And I was literally like, I should just leave him there and just, as sort of a quote unquote punishment.
Got it. Yeah. Like kind of teach him a lesson.
Spend the night in jail because you're stupid. So I get to base, and at the main gate was the exact same sergeant who had picked up the phone.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, so what happened? Like, how did he get a DUI on base? And they go, well, I'm going to do the short story here. So apparently he was sitting right outside the gate in his car. And I don't know what went through his mind at the time, but he decided to ram through the gate.
Wow.
Instead of getting his ID checked, and went on a mini chase throughout the base.
Okay. So he was kind of on the bender there.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't know what was going through his head at the time. And I was like, did you guys tase him at all? Like, I literally asked, I was like, did you tase him? I was like, obviously you didn't shoot him because he's not in the hospital.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, but we were about to. They finally got him to stop, open his door, and they could just literally smell the alcohol. So they took him in.
Did they know him? Like recognize him, or did they not know who he was?
No, because they're Air Force and he was Army.
Okay,
so he
never, right.
Yeah, so he never had an actual reason to, like, we never had a reason to go to base unless it was we were getting gas or maybe going grocery shopping, but there was nothing work-wise that he did on base.
Okay, so they weren't familiar with him.
Yeah. So he did come home with me that night. He was scared to come home with me that night. So he
probably was justifiably so.
He was somewhat competent that he knew that he was in a lot of trouble with me for being stupid. So I brought him home and I was like, what? I was like, you just go to bed. I was like, I have to finish packing, thing ready to leave for California. And I start hearing this clicking. And I'm like, what is this noise? Like, I literally thought he went into the bedroom, hit the bed, and just passed out. Like, I literally thought that's what he had done. So I'm like, what is this noise? So I go into our bedroom, and then the way the house was set up was into the bathroom, and there was a closet in the bathroom. Which is where our safe was that held several pistols.
Right. Okay.
He was loading up the magazines for these pistols. And I looked at him and I go, what are you doing?
He was loading all of them?
He was loading every single magazine.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why. I don't know if it was somewhat therapeutic for him. But I know he had one pistol loaded. And it was in his hand. And I literally just remember grabbing the muzzle, and I didn't care what happened to me because I was worried for his safety.
Right. He's in no condition to be handling any firearms.
Exactly. I was told on base, his alcohol. They give him the breathalyzer. He was at a what was it, 0.27. So he was about three times over the legal limit.
Right.
So, we're talking highly, highly intoxicated. And because of that, obviously, I was worried about what he was going to do.
Of course.
And he kept saying, I don't want to kill myself because I don't want to hurt myself, because I don't want to do anything to myself. He kept saying, I want to hurt her. And I knew who he meant, and that was the mother of his son.
Okay. Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, that's who he wanted to hurt because of everything she has been able to get away with.
Right.
And I told him, I go, no, you don't. I go, because if you do, you're going to go to prison and you're going to have to see your kids through plexiglass in an orange jumpsuit. And that is not how you want your kids to grow up seeing you.
Right.
I was like, so I'm trying to be the logical wife, mother, everything here. Going, this is not what you really want. You're just upset and you're drunk. You need to go to bed. So like I said, I grabbed the muzzle of the one pistol that was in his hand, and I said, give it to me right now. I said, let it go. And I remember him saying, wait. He released the magazine, put the safety on the gun, and handed it to me.
Okay.
And I remember grabbing all of the magazines, and I remember grabbing another pistol. I remember having two pistols, and I don't know, I must have had 5 or 6 completely loaded magazines in my hand. And I ran out of the bedroom to hide them from him. So after hiding the guns and the magazines, I ran back into the bedroom to talk him down, get him to go to sleep, just get him away from the weapons, basically. And I noticed that he has a few bullets in his hand, and I tell him, I go, give those to me. And as far as I was concerned, I thought I had gotten all the weapons out. But I still just didn't want him to have anything dangerous in his hand.
Right.
And he literally just tells me, he goes, like, come get them. So I did. I basically fought him over them. I put him into a chokehold several times. He was able to get out a few times, but I grabbed him back, and I was literally just trying to do anything to get him to calm down, subdue, whatever. And I remember asking him if he loved me, and he didn't say anything. And that really hurt, because I know that he loved me, but I also believe that at that point in time, he had been, I don't want to say possessed, but taken over by something else.
Yeah, he's not quite himself.
He is definitely was not himself. The look in his eyes, it was not Eric. It was definitely something else.
Yeah.
So after that, I let him go. And I was like, fine, if you're not going to say it, I was like, I'm done. I was done fighting. And I remember still being worried. So I went out into the living room, because that's where my cell phone was. And that's when I called 911 to simply, I just wanted them to come get him. And I heard the click. Yeah. And I went, I remember telling dispatch, I go, he has a weapon. Like I said, I thought I got them all out. Obviously, I did not. But I wanted at least the police to know that when they got here, he did have a weapon in hand.
Right.
So they weren't surprised and, possibly shoot him and kill him.
Right. Right.
So I was like, he has a gun. He has a gun. And I don't know how long after, but it must have only been seconds, is when I heard the gunshot. And the first thing that went through my mind was, that bastard just shot a hole in my ceiling in my bathroom.
Right. Right. Not thinking, because
I was definitely, because again, he had told me that he didn't want to hurt himself.
Right.
That he simply just wanted to do harm to his son's mother.
Yeah.
So I just kind of thought maybe he fired a shot to release the built up anger, tension, stress, whatever was anxiety, and so I remember telling dispatch, I was like, hold on. I was like, he just shot the gun. And so I remember going back into the bedroom to see what had happened. And he was literally laying on the floor in a puddle of his blood. He was about kind of halfway in, halfway out of our bathroom and our bedroom. And I just remember telling dispatch, I go, he shot himself. My husband's gone. And she goes, he shot himself. I was like, yes, ma'am. Like, he shot, like, I can see the blood. He's on the ground. I heard the gunshot. I was like, please, please, please get somebody here as fast as you can. And we had the dog at the time. We had our little puppy. And she was very curious as to what was going on. So I had to just pick her up.
Right.
And I just shut the bedroom door behind me to keep her out. And I literally just remember running outside saying, I'm going to wait for the police, because I could not see him the way that I did.
Right.
I couldn't stay in that room and just stare at him. I was literally looking back on it, and I was on the phone with dispatch for about 6 minutes before the first police officer arrived at my house. So definitely didn't take them long, which I was
very quick
thankful
response.
for. Very quick response. And I just remember having to wake the girls up, to get them out of bed and out of the house.
So they were sleeping during this whole thing?
They were sleeping. This all took place around 2:15, 2:30 in the morning of September 14th overall.
Yeah.
Because we didn't get home from the base until about it was probably more like 2:00 in the morning. That's when we finally got home.
Yeah.
So like I said, this all took place, around like 2:30 in the morning.
So they were asleep through the whole argument and the gunshot and everything.
Everything.
Wow.
And I mean everything. I'm still to this day extremely grateful for that they are very heavy sleepers. They could sleep through a nuclear bomb, I swear. Yeah, no, I had to go in and wake them up. I ran into Katie's room first. She's the youngest. At the time, she was only 12.
Okay.
And I handed her the dog and I said, get outside, take the dog, and just go outside. And she's like, what's going on? I was like, I just need you to get out of bed and go outside, please.
Yeah, she's probably very confused.
She's like, oh, extremely. She's like, what's going on?
Yeah.
She's like, I heard you screaming. Is there a bug in here? And I was like, just get out of the house.
Is there a bug?
She thought there was a bug.
That's very
That was
childlike
her
response.
worry. That was her worry. there was a bug. I then went into the oldest room. So I went into Alyssa's room and woke her up. And I said, you need to get out of bed and you need to get out of the house right now. And she was like, okay. She's like, what's going on? Her thought was the house was on fire.
Well, very logical response.
And again, yeah, no, extremely logical. And I was glad that that's where they went to, was bug and fire over anything else. Sorry, my roommate just came in.
No worries.
So got them out of the house. And you know, talking to the police officers and stuff. You know, we weren't allowed back in because it was considered a crime scene now.
Right. They do their investigation.
Yeah, they went through the investigation. So I kept getting asked where the gun was. And I'm like, I literally have no idea. I was like, I didn't even touch him. I couldn't. I just couldn't. I was like, I don't know where the gun is, but it's got to be there somewhere.
Right. He had to have been holding it. It had to be near him.
Yeah. And it was not something that, go outside, go. It was not something that obviously I had touched or tried to hide or anything because there was no point. And they were like, the bedroom door, was it closed or opened? And I go, it was been open the whole time. I go, I closed it after he had shot himself to keep the animals out.
Right. Yeah. You don't want them getting in there.
Yeah. And so those were the two questions that they kept bombarding me with. And I was just like, can we not go there? Can we just please focus on, like, to me, I was like, these are the questions you're asking me. I was like, I want you guys in there to make sure that he comes back to me. And at this point, I am literally sitting there praying to God, going, I don't care how he comes back. If he comes back brain damage and I have to take care of him for the rest of his life and he's in a wheelchair, I don't care. Bring him back to his wife and his family. You know, his kids need him, period. And that was what was going through my mind at the time. Also trying to get a hold of his mom to let her know what had happened, you know, try to get a hold of the immediate family to let them know.
Yeah.
So long story short, the police do their investigation. They take a statement from me. I'm on the phone with doctors for what seemed like days. I couldn't even tell you. I think overall I was awake for 40 plus hours.
Right.
Over this whole thing. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't do anything. It was about when they took him to the hospital, they said that they did have a heartbeat on him.
Okay.
So I had hope that maybe he didn't hit anything super serious, that it was somewhat fixable.
Now,
because
where did he shoot himself? Like in the brain, through the jaw, or what kind of?
So I'm not entirely sure. Looking back, going through the house, and seeing the bullet holes that were in the wall, and then his height of being 6'1", it looked like basically what had happened was he had put the gun to his head, and I think he was looking himself in the bathroom mirror and was contemplating whether he wanted to do it or not. And I think what happened was he realized he didn't want to, and it maybe started to just kind of drag it down his face. but I know that he had kind of changed the trigger systems on his pistols when he first got them. And so they were a little more sensitive than usual.
Yeah, okay, lighter trigger pulls.
Yeah, so I really think that it was honestly an accident overall, that it was not his intent to shoot himself.
Okay.
So I'm not sure where it hit. When my dad came out here and he saw everything, he goes, he definitely did not like shoot himself in the head.
Yeah.
There was no brain matter anywhere or anything like that. It was literally just blood.
Okay.
So and I never actually looked at Eric to see where the bullet hole entrance or exit was.
Yeah.
It was just something I couldn't do at the time.
Yeah, it's understandable.
Yeah. I literally had the funeral home identify the body for the cremation that we had done.
Oh, okay.
Because I was just like, I don't even know if I could have handled it.
Yeah.
Looking back, I kind of wish I had. But at the same time, again, I don't know what kind of trauma that would have caused me either.
Yeah.
But I just know that it has left a huge hole in our family. Huge.
6'1" size hole, I imagine.
Yeah. And especially for his girls. They've always kind of felt abandoned throughout their life. Their mother was never a huge part of their life to begin with. And I was kind of, for the 4 years, I was the most stable thing they really had as a mother figure.
Yeah.
Aside from grandma, Eric's mom, and that was it. So to be essentially quote unquote abandoned by their mother, and then their dad takes his own life and leaves us behind, I can only imagine the holes that they have.
Right.
And the pain that they go through. I was recently just talking to my mother-in-law, and she was saying how Katie, the youngest one, is still to this day very angry with her father.
Oh, yeah.
For what he did. So, and I go, no, I've told her numerous times, it's okay to be mad. It's okay to be mad at him.
Yeah, that's her way of processing it.
I was like, as long as she is finally coming out and about and saying it, instead of saying that she's fine and she's okay, I'd rather her experience anger than bottle up her feelings. And that hopefully it will help her heal and forgive him one day.
I think that's kind of the underlying message here, is to not keep that stuff bottled up, because it's the pressure just builds. You put that lid on it and it builds and builds and builds, and eventually that can culminate in an explosion, so to speak, which is not anything good. And that you end up in this kind of situation when you don't handle how you're feeling and things you're dealing with in healthier ways.
Exactly. And she was bottling up her emotions because she is very much like her daddy.
Yeah.
And she actually ended up taking apart her razor, and she was cutting her arms. She actually had to go to the hospital and get 87 stitches done.
Oh, wow. That's a lot.
That's a lot. And she was, 13.
That's rough.
And, so I was like, I talked to her and I was like, you really need to just open up about these things. I don't care who you talk to. I don't care if you talk to your counselor, because they are seeing a therapist, obviously.
Yeah.
Which I'm glad for.
Helpful.
It is. I was like, I don't care if you talk to your school counselor, your friends, grandma, me, your uncles, your aunts, whoever. talk to somebody, let them know, vent, tell us.
Yeah, it's healthy.
It's very healthy. And I think it's something that everybody and anybody should not be afraid to do. It doesn't matter how old you are, how responsible you think you are, how strong you need to be for somebody. You can't put the weight of the world on your shoulder just to make somebody else feel better.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that's the problem with society is we're now being told your feelings don't matter, but everybody else's does.
Yeah, that's kind of the message that's going around.
And especially with military men, they're taught to go hard, go strong, push yourself even further than what you think you can do. And so
they're all good things.
It is. Don't get me
in and
wrong.
of
Those are great
themselves,
things. Definitely push your boundaries. But at the same time, if you're feeling stressed about something or something happened to you or a friend or a family and you don't know how to handle it emotionally, you need to let somebody know, because if not, like you said, it's gonna build up.
Yeah.
And sooner or later that cap is gonna pop, and Lord knows what could happen, because I know that's exactly what happened to Eric. He was that person that wouldn't talk about anything. And it finally caught up to him.
Mm-hmm.
And being in a drunk state of mind did not help either. He was definitely not thinking clearly. But it needs to be said, because it's not something that's very well known anymore, is, especially in the military community.
I think our military is very poorly treated as far as veterans go, even, and just in general, the way that society views a lot of military is, I don't think it's correct, and so
it's not. It's definitely not. It's very skewed.
Yeah, we have a lot of homeless veterans, and they need help, but no one's giving them the help. But
yeah,
I think people often forget about active military. A lot of people mention the veterans needing help and stuff like that, but the active military also needs help, not just the veterans.
Yeah, I mean,
you go through a lot in the military, whether you were deployed or not. Even just the training that the military goes through.
Yeah,
it's very intense, and there's just a lot to deal with and process. But especially the guys who have been deployed and the stuff that they've seen and stuff that they've done, and
yeah,
even stuff like you had said, your husband had survivor's guilt. Just why did I get to go home to my family and that guy didn't? And
exactly.
I can't imagine how you would even begin to process that. Like, I think that would be really hard to deal with, and a lot of them try and deal with it on their own rather than seeking any help. And I think it's necessary to let them know that we're there to help them. Anyone's there to help them. And so, earlier I mentioned our year of giving, us donating. On top of the suicide prevention, in the next quarter, we're also going to be donating to a organization that helps veteran and active military by providing on-base centers where the active military can go and seek help.
That's good. Eric Sargent is actually in the process of trying to do the same thing.
I think it's
Sergeant
necessary.
Sergeant Jones, I'm going to make mention of him because he is a beautiful, wonderful man. I honestly don't know what I would have done without him. He set up Eric's funeral out in California for me. He told me not to worry about anything.
Mm-hmm.
He handled a lot of the Army paperwork. for Eric's death. Even told the people who were actually supposed to be handling it. They came in about a month later. They finally got the notification about it all. And they were like, oh, well, let's call her and we'll get everything, started going paperwork wise, blah, 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 and all this. And he goes, I've already got it started. He goes, you talk to her. He goes, I will make sure that you don't have a career in the Army anymore.
That's good. He stepped up.
Sergeant Jones, like I said, he is a godsend. He is part of our family. I love that man to death. I don't know what I would have done without him.
Good. I'm glad someone was there to help you through it.
Yeah. And he is now, because he is full-time National Guard, he is now trying to get it set up to get suicide awareness on every single base.
I think that's important. Yeah.
To put pictures up of those we have lost, to show, look, this is a serious matter. Here's numbers to contact, here's places to go.
Yep.
And I couldn't be more grateful for that he is very much getting that done. And that now I know that you guys are donating to essentially that exact same cause.
Yeah, of course.
Is wonderful. Because it needs to be out there. It needs to be said. I know that the people who commit suicide look at it and they go, the world is better off without me. Whatever. And for them, it ends. Right. Their suffering ends. And that's how I've begun to look at my husband's death. Is he is no longer in pain. He is no longer suffering.
Which is great for him.
So in a sense, I'm grateful for that. I know he was literally in a lot of physical pain as well.
Yeah.
But it's left a huge hole in my life and my heart and our families overall.
It definitely affects those around everyone. It's not just the individuals themselves,
Yeah.
And
they say everybody will be better off without me, and reality is we're not.
They say it's kind of selfish, and in a way it kind of is, and
I definitely,
it ends their suffering, but it does cause more suffering to those that love them.
Yeah. Believe me, I still have Eric's remains here in the house with me. I haven't been able to let go, to bury him anywhere. So I have this really beautiful little memorial place set up in my house that has his ashes. I have the folded flag in a display case.
Yep. And you don't necessarily need to even bury him. My friend has his dad in an urn, displayed on his mantle. And, that's a very
and it's
common
a very
way.
beautiful. It's a very beautiful box, and it still makes me feel close to him, to where I can sit there and I can talk to him, or I could yell at him. But I definitely do. When I talk to him, every now and then I tell him how selfish he was for what he did. And that's just part of my anger of it in reality.
And anger is a normal, response to
it's part of the grieving. I don't think I have forgiven him. I do know, like I said, I'm grateful that he is no longer in pain. He is no longer suffering. He doesn't have PTSD anymore. He's not depressed.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful on that end, but I miss him. I still love him.
Of course.
He's still my husband. I wanted to grow old with him and spend the rest of my life with him.
Yeah.
So even though people may think that the world is better off without them, you never know who cares until you're gone. I knew that when I told people about Eric's death, obviously immediate family was going to be devastated. And
Yeah.
I knew his army battalion was going to be devastated. What I did not know were how many other people that were affected through him.
Yeah. You know, a lot of
He
people don't
went
realize
through,
the impact they have.
I have literally, once the word got out, there were people that I have never heard of in my life that he had never even talked about that came through and was like, yeah, I went through the police academy with him.
Mm-hmm.
He helped me with this. He helped me with that. I used to work with him over here.
Yeah. Sounds like he had
You
a lot of
know,
impact on a lot of people.
he really did. I never heard a single bad thing. All I heard was he trained me to do what I needed to do in the military.
Yeah.
Or he helped me through the police academy. He helped me out at work. You know, that's all I ever heard was if I needed something, he was there.
Yeah.
He practically gave the shirt off his back to anybody who needed it. But again, I didn't realize how many people's lives he had touched until he had passed away.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow, like there's literally hundreds and hundreds of people that I had no clue existed. You know, gaming people that he gamed with on his phone. He had been gaming for 5+ years. And he has built relationships with these people online. And they were like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe that he's gone now.
Yeah. And the sad part is, you know, he could have touched so many more lives.
Yeah.
You know, there's the potential was there for more and more
Oh,
people
very
for
much
him to help.
so.
So
Very much so.
I'd like to take a minute just to talk with you about maybe, how do I say, like, what can someone like who's in a similar position as you maybe do to help their friend, their spouse, their brother, their mother, their sister, whoever, um, that are in tough situations like that, people that are dealing with PTSD or depression or, you know, showing any of those symptoms, or sometimes a lot of people say they don't even notice any symptoms. But in your situation, like you know, he had PTSD. Um, so what would you recommend to people that they do to help those individuals?
So in all honesty, he hid his PTSD very well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it really only came out 4th of July is when it would really show.
Yeah.
But what I can say is if you know that they've been through anything traumatic, and I mean anything, whether it be a military deployment or even a car accident.
Yeah, that can be traumatic too.
Yeah, you know, I mean, PTSD is literally post-traumatic stress disorder. So
Right. It's not exclusive to
anything
military.
trauma. Yeah, it is definitely not just military. I know myself, I have PTSD when it comes to really thick fog and driving
Mm-hmm.
because I was in a horrible accident when I was in 8th grade. So fog freaks me out. So I know it's just to me, it's not as big as somebody else's PTSD, but it's still a form of PTSD.
Of course, yeah.
And it still affects me in some sort of way. But I just to the family members, friends, coworkers, if you just notice they're slightly off, they're having just even an off day, just talk to them. In all honesty, talk to them every single day. Ask them how they're doing.
Mhm.
If they say that they're fine, just go like, are you really sure? I know you've been taking on a lot more of a workload than usual. I want to make sure you're okay. I know you recently just experienced death in the family or whatever.
Mhm.
Just kind of take that extra step, whether they say they're okay or not, double, triple, quadruple check with them
Yeah.
and just be like, look, you know, I'm here if you need me. Don't be afraid. Because I guess I could just say, just reassure them that talking about their emotions, period, isn't going to make anybody think less of them. Just go, look, judge-free zone,
Yeah.
safe space.
I agree. I
Um,
think it's really important, just to make sure that people know that you're really there for them. It's one thing to say you're there for someone, and people probably hear it all the time. Hey, if you need anything, I got your back, or
yeah,
but to actually be persistent about it and checking in on people, I think is super important. I know we all get busy and we all have our own lives, but it
yeah,
definitely is important to check in on your friends and your family and your loved ones, but especially those that that, like you said, they had a death in the family or a car accident, or been through anything like that.
yeah,
You definitely want to check in on those people even extra, and go the extra mile to make sure that they know that they can talk to someone, and then being open when someone does try to talk to you, and not shut them down and not judging them and being like, oh, suck it up, or to get over it.
yeah.
Those
And
kind of things don't help.
yeah, it doesn't. And then I know a few people who would probably go, oh yeah, I've experienced something. And it's like, you know what? For right now, let this conversation be about them,
Right.
and
Yep. Also.
don't bring yourself into it right now, because
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
now it's about them.
Right. If you want to talk about yourself, you
Um,
guys can set some more time aside for
yeah,
that. But when someone's telling you about their experience and their feeling, it's important to just sit and listen sometimes.
yeah, and just to acknowledge that it's okay. I
Yeah.
understand. I get it. You're stressed out right now. So what can we do? What do you want to do? Do you want to go to a theme park? Do you want to
Yeah.
go out to dinner? Start just offering ideas to help them de-stress.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Um, whatever it may be. Be
Yeah.
like, hey, let's go back to the house. Let's hang out. Let's go watch a movie.
Yeah.
Let's go have fun.
Anyone can really be a therapist.
Yeah,
Going to therapy is really good for some people. Some people need it, some people don't. But you don't have to be a licensed therapist to give therapy to someone. Sometimes people just need someone to listen to them. They just need to
yeah,
talk, and they want to be heard. And you can do that with anyone as long as you have someone who's willing to listen. And
yeah,
to be that person that's willing to listen to somebody else, I think it's something everyone could learn to do better.
definitely, definitely. Because I mean, I know it's even hard for me, you know, to just sit and listen and not bring up something personable
Right.
to
Everyone wants
relate.
to relate, and I
Exactly.
think
It's to
that's kind
show,
of
hey, I understand exactly where you're coming
exactly.
from. And it's like, you know what? I just need to shut up and just listen.
Yeah.
Whether I relate to it or not, I just need to shut up and listen, because this is what they need right now.
Yeah. Exactly like you said. I think that's a perfect, way to summarize it, is that we're trying to show that we can relate by, oh, well, I went through a similar experience, so I know what you're dealing with. And a lot of times that's not what people want. They don't want to say, hey, that's cool, you had a similar experience, but my experience was different. Mine was unique to me, and everybody's different in their own way and how they handle certain
Yeah.
situations and how they process situations. Some people could get in a car accident and not care at all, and other people can get in a car accident and then be afraid to drive.
Yeah.
Everybody's different, and just for you to be like, oh, well, I got my car accident and everything was okay, that kind of, is undermining how they feel, saying that, well, what you're feeling is not valid, when you're just
Exactly.
sometimes trying to relate to them and show that you understand. You might be undervaluing how they're feeling. So it's
And
kind
that
of a
and that
process.
makes it even harder. That then puts into their mindset that it's easier to not talk about it
Right.
than it is to, because if I go and talk to somebody else, they're just going to do the exact same thing and invalidate my feelings. So what's the point in even talking about my feelings?
Yeah, exactly. There's a time, for talking with your buddies and your coworkers or family or whoever, and joking, and and me and my friends, we're always talking, crap to each other, saying this and that and the other, and there's a time and place for that. But when someone comes to you with something serious and they really need to talk about it, it's it's time to put the other shit to the side and
Yeah.
really sit and listen, and not, you know, especially like when it comes to like men, like, oh, well, you don't be such a pussy, or you suck it up, and you know that mentality has to change.
It really does. I I remember I throughout the years I've told Eric, I go, because like I said, May 25th, he would set aside for Daniel Unger. And that was the only time I've ever seen that man cry, was that day. And I was like, I mean, at first I was like, okay, what's going on? Like you don't cry.
Yeah.
So what, go help me understand this. Um, and that's when he explained, this 19-year-old kid got hit by a shrapnel from a mortar and died. And he goes, he wasn't in my platoon or anything like that. And he goes, but he was only 19 and he should have lived.
Yeah,
He had a
it's
life.
sad.
He had a life to live. Like he had literally just joined the army and it was his first deployment, and he had literally just proposed to his girlfriend before he left. So he was going to go home and get
Wow,
married. And
that's rough.
yeah, he was like, this kid had his life ready to go and it was taken from him. And he goes, and I get to go home and see my girls. Um, and so it hit him differently. But like I said, that was the only time I've ever seen him
Yeah.
cry. And I told him, I remember looking at him and going, it's okay. I get it. And if this is the day that you need to do that, then I'll give it to you.
Yeah.
And to me, it's showing those emotions is what I believe makes somebody stronger.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
Being strong is not about having no emotion.
hiding your
You know,
emotions and showing that, look, no matter what I go through, I can handle it, I can deal with it, and I don't need anybody's help to deal with it.
that's a common misconception. People think that in order to be strong, you have to do everything on your own. And sometimes being strong is knowing when you need help. Just like people think being brave means you're not afraid. Being brave means you are afraid, but you do it anyway.
Yeah,
People have
exactly.
these misconceptions all the time about how things work and the way things have to be, but knowing when you need help makes you stronger than
Yeah,
just trying to you know macho your way through everything on your own. you know if you were trying to lift something super heavy, or carry something, you're trying to carry your couch as you're moving.
yeah,
The wise man is the guy who goes, hey, I need some help, someone help me carry this couch.
yep,
It's not the weak man.
exactly. No, the one who's weak is going to be like, don't worry, I got this.
It's about
I
overcompensating a
can do
lot.
all of this on my own.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
And it's the strong one who's going to go, you know what? I can't.
Yeah.
I
It's
realize
about knowing
now
your
that
limits.
yeah, and like I said, there's nothing wrong with pushing yourself past what you think you can do, but there's also a point in time where you need help,
Yeah.
and you just simply go, you know what? Somebody help me,
Yeah. It's
please.
important to know the difference between that, and when to push yourself and when you really need to get the help.
Yeah. Um, and like I said, there's absolutely nothing wrong in asking for help, whether it be physical or mental or emotional.
Yeah.
Um, you know, reach out. There are people everywhere who are willing to listen.
Oh, yeah. There's
Um,
tons of help out there if you just look for it. That's the problem is some
yeah,
people don't want to look for it, but if you look, you can find what you're looking for.
there's a lot of suicide awareness telephone numbers to call for sure.
Yeah, we have one
And
on our website. If anyone out there is looking for some help, you can go to our website. It's www.fallenrise.us. And if you click on the resources tab there, we have a list of resources for suicide hotlines that you can call. Um, if you are dealing with alcoholism, or we have various different hotlines and resources that you can use to help you with pretty much almost anything that you're going through. Um, or you could always reach out to us at Fall and Rise. We're here to help. We'll listen, we'll talk, we'll point you in the direction of someone or some organization that can help. You know, we're here. Reach out.
yeah, and they're there, especially the suicide awareness. They're there
Yeah,
24/7. Plenty of people to talk to, whether it's a simple, I'm depressed, and I you can literally even say, I know I don't want to kill myself, but I'm just not feeling it right now.
yeah, of course.
Um, there's a beautiful song. It's a country song, and I forget who sings it. You might actually know. Um,
Maybe.
and I don't know the name of the song either, but uh, the lyrics are, every storm has an end.
Uh, I think I know what song you're talking about, but it's right there on the tip.
Yeah, like everything, it's right there on the tip of my tongue. Um, but the song is basically talking about, sooner or later, every storm runs out of rain. I think that's actually what it's called.
Oh yeah, I think so. I think
Um,
you're right.
but it's, it may last days, it may last weeks, it may even last months, but sooner or later, every single cloud is going to run out of rain, and
Yeah.
the sun is going to come out at some point. And
Little
that
Annie
day,
had it right. The sun will come out tomorrow.
the sun will come out tomorrow.
Yeah,
Um, and
that's true. It's
it may
cliche,
not be
but
the tomorrow you expect, but it will come out, and
yeah,
the rain will end, the storm will end.
right.
And you just have to wait out the storm sometimes.
Yeah, you think about it. To this point, to this day, you have survived everything you've ever been through.
Hmm.
Everything, even all the things you thought you couldn't survive at the time, and you said, "There's no way that I'll get through this. There's no way that I'll get over this. Get over this love, like get over this person, or I lost my job and there's no way I'm going to move on, or how am I going to survive?" And to this day,
Yeah,
you know, you and anyone listening to this, you have survived everything you've ever been through, and you can survive everything you're going to go through.
yeah,
Just keep on trucking.
yeah. There's every obstacle can be overcome.
I agree.
Some may take longer than others. You may have a track hurdle to get over tomorrow, and maybe next year it's a mountain that you have to climb.
Yep.
And that mountain's going to take a lot longer than that hurdle, but you will get over that mountain.
Yeah. I agree.
And I just think that that's something that everybody needs to hear, needs to, I hope, understand that there's always going to be an uphill battle, but we can overcome it. And you know what? Maybe we need help climbing that mountain. Maybe I don't need help with the hurdle. Maybe I need help with the mountain.
Yeah. Some training. Mountain climbers don't just go and climb mountains. They train
They
first.
don't.
And
they always have a
don't
partner.
train by themselves.
You gotta have that safety partner.
Exactly.
Because what if you get hurt? What if you get stuck? There's somebody to help you.
Yeah.
I
think that sums this up pretty nice. So
I do too. I do too.
Thanks for sharing that with us, Lauren. It was very eye-opening, very it's very touching, because I know that's a sore subject. It's hard to talk about, but I really appreciate you talking with us about that and sharing that experience that night with us.
Yeah, definitely. Anytime. And I'm definitely one of those people. If anybody wants to reach out, you can definitely feel free to put my email out there.
Sure, I'll put your email in the description below for
Yeah.
anyone who wants to reach out to Lauren. If you're going through a similar situation, or if you went through a similar situation and you just want to talk about your guys' experience with Lauren and, share that similarity, yeah, you can reach out to her. I'll put her information.
Just need somebody to listen.
Yeah.
I will definitely listen. I will share my experience yet again with anybody and everybody who wants to hear it.
Awesome.
That's all I want. Is I no longer want the 22 a day. I want it to be 0.
Yeah.
Period. I don't want anybody to ever commit suicide, because it's just, for one, I see it as an easy way out, and it's something that we can all overcome, because we are stronger than we think.
Exactly. I 100% agree with that.
And we just need somebody to open our eyes to see that we are stronger than what we see ourselves in.
I agree.
So,
well,
well, thank you so very much for offering this to me. I'm glad that I can get a message out there to people. Let them know, that they're not the only, they won't be the only ones that suffer.
Yeah.
That, there's a hole that is left behind. The world is definitely not as bright anymore without my husband. So.
Yeah. Well, best wishes to you and your family.
Thank you very much.